Morning, good afternoon, good evening. A brief intro into the fundamentals. We'll see that for today, nothing is really going to happen during the London hours, which has already gone through or gone by. For the New York session, we're looking at this advanced GDP, Q over Q, which is quarter over quarter. However, we're looking at the impact of this GDP to especially pound, British pound, Japanese yen. So if the pound happens that is better than expected, look at it here. If the actual is greater than forecast, it is considered good for the currency. And since US dollar is a safe haven currency, we want to see how that would water down on the pound slash yen relationship. What I'm trying to say is that we'll try to see if there's going to be some goodness coming out of the pound, whereby the pound will rally bullishly. Okay. But at the time being, the pound versus the yen currency pair is in a quagmire, meaning that it's not really going up until it breaks above a particular landmine. It's not really going to come down until it crosses below a particular landmine as well. Now, with that being said, on the part of the fundamentals, remember the GDP stands for domestic product, gross domestic product, implying that we are looking at the cumulative amount of production that the country in question are putting into their economy and the amount that is exported, which will result in what it comes in or what makes the country or the economy stable. Okay, the higher the GDP, the better the economy. The lower the GDP, the more insovereign an economy would be, meaning that they are going to be considered a third world country. Okay, with that being said, let's go into the technicals. The fundamental, most times, if we want to go deep into it, it will mean that we want to go through the hula baloo of the different intricate things that influence price. Okay. However, I like dealing with the fundamentals behind for the private trainees or tutors. The technicals is something that somebody can say, okay, yes, he said that, and that's what was what happened. Because if I say, okay, based on the fundamental, this will happen, that will happen, people will say, what if it happened like this? But since the chart is either up or down, it is clear that okay, if this happen, then that would happen. If that doesn't happen, then this would happen. It's as simple as that. With that being said, let's go to the chart. But before we try to wash down what the chart is going to give us technically, I would like us to spend a few seconds to do some post analysis on the trades we had yesterday. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, with that being said, this was the trade I took yesterday and it was shared on the Telegram group, which was it's a free Telegram group. Looking at taking sales here because as you can see, remember, though I'm going to rehash that when we go to the daily time frame. If you remember very well, I said something about price. If it does this, then we're going to do that. If it doesn't do this, then we'll be anticipating the other action to occur. Now, I was of the opinion that if price comes bearishly violating these two zones, I'll be looking to take sales, and that was exactly what occurred because once price made this impulsive leg coming down and the retracement was a clear weak bullish retracement, was I was anticipating a further bearish momentum, which was what occurred. Now, after that hit the TP, the next thing that occurred was checking on it on the 5 minutes time frame to see the flow of price. Now, there's something that most people tend to overlook, which is the influence of liquidity in the market. You notice that when I entered my trade here, price then had some reaction to the trade. Now, most persons, which is why it's not very good to do all these quick scalps if you don't understand the signature of a particular currency pair, or if you're trading the stock markets, or if you're into options. Okay, you need to understand the signature of each particular instrument you're trading. In this particular scenario, once this occurred, the signature changed. Let me use white. I think white would print a bit more. 1 second. Yep, better. Okay, so the signature here, it printed some bullish momentum or bullish price action before dumping. Why did it do that? Now I could go into the technicals to start explaining why it did that. However, I would do it in a very brief method because I want this to be very short, simple, and sweet. Okay, so this was a price action and price played out as it we anticipated. Now let's go back to the chart. Looking at the chart once more, this was what occurred yesterday. I'm going to rehash what occurred the day before yesterday. Now let's look at this, that all of this had not occurred. From here like this had not occurred. Okay, all of this had not occurred. So what exactly were we looking at on the daily? If you had watched the video, the previous video, the one preceding this, there was a clear price action that was denoted. What were we looking at? Let's take out all of this. We're looking at clean price action that we were at resistance, and this will be arrow 1, resistance level 1. This will be arrow 2, what that was before this bearish candle was printed. And most institutional traders, most retail traders will be looking at, okay, there will be some liquidity hanging here, which would invariably affect price, making price to turn in an opposite direction from this bullish momentum because of this supply zone here. Okay, this supply zone is what results in the imbalance, which means that the amount of sellers at this particular level is greater than the amount of buyers. In other words, the volume that is allocated to the sellers is greater than the volume that the buyers are coming with. The only thing that would make the buyers to invalidate the sellers because of the volume waiting here is if the amount allocated to the sellers or the amount allocated in volume to the sellers is less than the volume that the buyers are coming with. Now, with that being said, technically we're looking at, okay, I want to see a bearish momentum in order to respect the influence of this supply zone. And if we violate this region, we will see some continuous bullish momentum. And this was exactly what occurred. Price responded as anticipated by turning bearish. So what we are waiting for now is to see if this bullish momentum will continue. But like I said, from the fundamental aspect, there is no strong pound news that is anticipated anytime today. So, which is why you're seeing this weakness. So we're waiting for the red folder from the US dollar by 8:30 Eastern Standard Time to determine the direction of the day. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's look at it on the 4 hours time frame. Now, going down to the 4 hours time frame, this is what I was looking at. Okay, that this was where I had my sell because it was a clear bearish territory, weak bullish retracement, continuous bearish momentum. Okay, now this would have acted like a strong support because this is supposed to be S1, S2 here. But why did this support not hold price from bearishly breaching this 4 hour support? Simple. It's because of the bias of the day, whereby the volume of people who are willing to dump the pound was more than the volume of people who were willing to buy the pound. It's a simple mathematics whereby if a child of, let's say, 15 years tries to go into combat with a young man of, let's say, 30 years, there is no how that child would overpower the man at 30, especially if their physical strength and training are equal. Let me put it this way. If all the food the young man at 15 eats, does the same exercise like the man at 30 did, that means if the man at 30 is, let's say, 80 kilogram and the man at 15 is, let's say, for a good body mass index BMI, let's say he is, let's say, 40 to 50 kilogram. With that being said, based on weight, the 30-kilogram man has a higher what strength. Based on mass ratio, the 30 kilogram will have a longer arm length. The 30 years old man would have a stronger, robust presence in the fight. The same thing applies here. Now, looking at this technically, you would see the signature being printed. Let me extend this. You will see the signature being printed. Look at how price dumps to this point. Look at the weaknesses that was propounded or elucidated at this point. Bottom wicks. Look at how the bullish candles printed. Look at how this bearish candle printed. You would notice that the sellers wanted to embrace more price. Gauge this momentum. Gauge this momentum. You see that the buyers were disinterested. They only made price come up to give what favorable market value, so that the sellers can dump it further, which is what elucidated these sellers breaching this support to make a new low. There is more technicality in this, but like I said, I'm just trying to tell the best I can give with the time available for this. Okay, with that being said, I wasn't looking for I wasn't looking for um any sales at London session. Now, every trader will always ask why, because you want to know the why. The why would help you understand when something should occur, what could influence that kind of action, how should you respond to that kind of action. Now, this is what I mean. This I'm delving into some deeper technicality here. This we're delving into the deep waters now. This is how price printed. During the New York session, this is a retracement. This retracement is considered a 100% retracement, also referred to as what? The V formation. Okay. Now, this V formation is a trademark of Navin Prithiani. Okay. He is the person I've heard use this term before, V formation, and this is a 100% V formation, meaning that the sellers are interested here. However, the buyers are interested here. The sellers and the buyers reached equilibrium here, whereby though the sellers pushed price down, the buyers were able to return the price to where the sellers pushed it from. And for that to occur, it could only mean that the sellers were not strong enough to keep price at support should equal resistance, or at least towards the brink of this area. But reaching this side is a very strong no sign in deep technicalities. But that does not mean that price wouldn't drop, just like you observe in the daily time frame. Resistance 1, resistance 2. Price has to do what? Annul to the effect of the supply or volume waiting here for price to go down. So once this happened, two things could occur. Sales could occur below here to drop down lower, but I was not interested in taking the sales. Why? Because anticipating price to drop lower would imply that we are going to the daily time frame to where demand is waiting from the daily time frame. Where is demand waiting? Somewhere around here, you anticipate what? Buyers to push price vehemently. So I didn't want to sell towards this zone That would be me trying to step on a lion's tail. So with that being said, we're looking at, okay, price would not continue in this bearish momentum. Instead, price would show some resistance from this top zone, which it did. Okay, if price had come below here, we would have anticipated further bearish momentum. But you see how price rejection, this is known as a pin bar, this rejection here. Okay, then the bias were introduced. Now, based on the introduction of this bias, one could anticipate price to rally to this resistance. Okay, but the first area one could be looking at is where price had tapped, which is this resistance level here. Oh, that is too long. Which is this resistance level here. So you see how a lot of things are contained in the chart. Just looking at the British pound Japanese yen alone, we spent how many minutes now? Over 16 minutes just discussing British pound Japanese yen. And this I want to just leave it at this point now. So in a nutshell, what I'm looking at on the British pound Japanese yen is favorable buys. Okay, favorable buys, that is price should continue its bullish momentum, but I'm not going to take any buy at the moment because price is stuck between the WC and the devil, in the sense whereby I would prefer to take buys if we get a bullish momentum, retracement and continuation. Okay, I would want to take the counter trend sells here. I would want to take the trend continuation phase here. Then if I'm opportune to catch this breakout phase here, I would also like to join it. So 3 different stages. For the sells, better sells would occur anywhere below this zone. Better sells would occur anywhere below this zone. Sweeter buys would occur anywhere above this zone. So this area here is a no trade zone from the daily time frame. But if you want to trade the lower time frame like the 30, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, or even 1 minute, you could catch some trade setups. I'm just looking at it from a higher time frame. Okay, so that you can place your trade, really work off leave the system, go and do 1 or 2 things and be sure of the output. Okay, so sweeter sells below this zone, sweeter buys above this zone. This is what I'm looking at on British pound Japanese yen. The next thing on my watch list is gold. And like we anticipated, we're looking at gold pumping, giving its bullish momentum to this zone. And we are very close to hitting our take profit. Very close. Okay. So without much being said, gold is printing still bullish, but I'm not going to add any position for buys here. If it wants to continue from here to here, no problem. But to take any buys in this particular level is a no-no for me. Why? Because I am seeing very clear weakness from the buyers. Okay. Yes, the price may continue printing bullish, but I'm seeing very clear weakness from the buyers. So 2 scenarios could be price dump here, continue, dump to this point, continues. Okay, we just want what is known as a reboot of the system, where sellers should come in, overpower the buyers a little bit, then buyers will continue. Without that reboot, money would not be available for the zero sum. Remember, everything is what? Zero sum. If everyone is buying, who are they going to sell to? So we want people who are willing to sell to come to create liquidity for those who are willing to do what? Buy. Okay? That kind of way there is a balance in the system. So we'll be looking for continuous buy, but the buy leg has overstretched itself. So I'm not anticipating any buys at the moment. However, there could be trade setups on lower time frames, okay? But from a higher time frame, we are seeing some weaknesses. But the lower time frame, buyer's territory, retracement, okay? Sweet buys will occur above here. If we get some retracement to anticipate some sales to come down to this zone, it's as simple as that. Control C, Control V, copy and paste. Okay. With that being said, sweet buys above here, sells after retracement for price to continue to this zone. Okay. That is for gold. The last but not the least on the watch list is Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin will be on its bullish leg. I'm not surprised. Why am I not surprised? Because Bitcoin has bullishly breached a resistance, which is this resistance level here. I remember one of the early videos, it was forecasted that if Bitcoin surpasses this resistance, we'll be anticipating further bullish momentum. However, this is the sweet buy zone. Anything where price bullishly breaches this is Chabella. We'll be anticipating higher bullish momentum. So this is what I'm looking at on the British pound, Japanese yen, gold, and Bitcoin. For the pound yen, I'm looking for buys above that resistance, sell below. For gold, it's a little exhausted on the buy side. I want to see some retracement. For Bitcoin, it's still going to print some bullish momentum. But at the moment, price is consolidating. So let's see what price will do more. Okay, so if you're holding your buys and let's say you bought Bitcoin around this point, yeah, you can keep holding it. It's already in the system. No need pulling your money or fund out. However, Bitcoin is highly speculative, which is why it's until it becomes an institutional kind of thing, it could be influenced by some little tipping of the weight, either to the upside or to the downside, which means that there is no strong balance in the system as at now. But those who are enjoying the ride, kudos. This is all I have for you for now. Okay, Baraka Bashad. Peace. Once more, this is Phoenix Unique. Do well to subscribe, hit that notification button, comment, and like. Bye for now.